Hey there, amazing ones, and welcome to today's message. We're up to day 35, I think. Oh my gosh. And today I want to talk to you guys about the obstacles within us that paradoxically want the best for us. All right, so we're going to dive into how on earth are obstacles there for us, right? And actually just what just came to mind was that book by Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way, right? And so what I want to talk to you guys about today is the parts within every single human being, whether they are consciously aware of it or not, that are basically, they actually have really good intentions for each and every one of us, but they are outdated strategies that were built to help us survive. And what I want to talk to you guys about today is what are those parts, what are those obstacles that paradoxically have our best interests at heart, and basically what they really need, what they really want, and why they're there, and how they're here to serve us. But we really need to get clear on what's going on inside of our system if we ever want to actually really progress towards what we really want. So, as you guys are tuning in, I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. Say hi. Let me know any words of wisdom or experience you want to share on these topics, any questions you might have, any things that you think can support this community to just think on a different wavelength to help to kind of access a point where we can get out of our own suffering and our own limitations and actually wake up to all of the possibility that is available to us. All right, so the obstacles within us that paradoxically want the best for us. And hello to you guys who are joining. I can see Dave here. I can't always see all of your names, but if you drop me some comments, I definitely will. And I love to connect with you guys after I go on a bit of a rant with today's topic and then check in with you guys, as I always love doing. All right, so have you ever felt as though you got inspired by something and maybe you started making traction towards that thing, that goal, that result that you're after, but then you find yourself running into the same old patterns of sabotage, all right? Or maybe it just becomes so hard driven that the thing that originally inspired you now feels like this big thing that you have to do. It feels like this heavy burden of responsibility, and kind of this part of perfectionist comes in, or this really controlling part of you might be directing your life, and this other part of you just kind of wants to escape that and go distract yourself with something. Well, we all have this inner world going on within us. We all have these parts within us that are in a bit of a tug of war, right? And when we leave those parts unchecked, they govern our experience in life. And it's when we start feeling as though we're on that hamster wheel, we can't ever get off, we feel out of control of directing the course of our life, and we just are simply at an odds. We're confused. We don't feel as though we're the kind of people who can follow through on things that are meaningful to us. We keep falling off the wagon and trying to get ourselves back onto the wagon. And basically through those cycles of falling off and trying to get back on, and we get more and more in this self-loathing, self-defeating kind of attitude. We no longer trust ourselves because we're not following through on the things that matter to us. All of these things can come into play. And I just want to say to you all, it's part of the human experience, right? We all have parts that are at war with one another, seemingly, even feeling as though they're sabotaging us and don't want the best for us. But what I want for you to take away from today's message is just a different perspective on your own inner world, all right? And hopefully a little bit of a pathway of awareness out of that. but not in the same old way of trying to push yourself or judge yourself or criticize yourself into movement or momentum, but instead actually using awareness, understanding, compassion, and self-leadership to actually move you forward towards resolving those tug-of-war internal conflicts that you may have that seemingly sabotage your success. And actually now you can give them a different role to play, and they can actually be a really valuable tool on your journey to make sure that you're staying true to what your path is and also enjoying the journey, all right? Because that's part of what these parts are trying to resolve for you. All right, so big hi to Dave and Arissa and Bill. Good to see you, my friend. And I can see Elf's giving a love heart, but I can't see everybody's names for some reason. I have no idea why. But let's dive into it. So let's break this down. What are the parts within you that end up being obstacles, but paradoxically, they really actually want the best for you? They're not trying to be an obstacle in your life. In fact, they're actually trying to be the complete opposite of an obstacle, right? There are parts within every single human being that are what we call protective parts, right? Now, protective parts can be broken down into two categories. We all have managing parts, right? These are the parts within us that are really, driving it home. They're the control freak within us. They are the ones that really want to manage the situation. They want to direct, they want to accomplish, they want to tick things off the to-do list. They want to get things done, right? Then we also have these other protective parts that are in seeming odds with that first manager kind of part that we have within us. And these ones are called the firefighters. Now these parts, these firefighting parts, they're the ones who come in spontaneously to distract us from pain, from anything that we don't want to experience, right? These are the parts that come in that are at odds seemingly with the managing parts that are really strict and governing. This other part within us, they want freedom, they want experience, they just want to have fun. This is where this part is where our addictive nature can come into play, right? These firefighters use a strategy to protect us from overwhelm, from experiencing negative, critical parts within us. Whatever we don't feel we can handle and we want to escape from, these firefighter parts come in. Right? This is the part of us that just wants to go and enjoy, just wants to escape the pain of this reality, right? They'll go to whatever strategy you've found throughout your timeline of your life will just work to distract you from the realities that you don't actually want to face in this moment, right? Be that a distraction with drugs or alcohol or sex or relationships or, overdoing any area of your life. A lot of people go into health and fitness and overdo it over there. That's their distraction. Whatever it is, right? Go and check out the latest series on Netflix, like whatever it is, something that you overdo that ends up being destructive or, having a negative impact on the life that you want to live, right? These are the firefighting parts. Now, both the managing parts, the controlling parts within you that want to be strict and perfectionistic and get things done, and those firefighting parts that just want to have fun and escape all that crap, right? And just go and just experience something different and escape this reality. Both of those parts are actually trying to protect us, all right? And you might say, well, what the hell? What do you mean trying to protect us? What are they trying to protect me from, right? And they end up creating this, this tug and pull kind of war going on within us, and feel like we're getting ahead with the controller and just like being a Nazi over here and, being really a control freak. And then this other part comes and sabotages that one on its path, it seems, right? And just wants to go and escape and create an addictive nature and strategy over here. And then this one wants to correct this one and challenge this one and control this one, and they go on their own battle. But the truth is they're both trying to protect us, and what they're really trying to do is they're trying to protect a very, very vulnerable part, or maybe many vulnerable parts within us that have not been resolved, right? So think about times in your history, the timeline of your life, throughout your childhood and your existence, every little wound that you might have experienced, whether you were really consciously aware of it or it was something that was just gathering in your subconscious. But there are these very vulnerable parts that are connected to a belief system of not feeling worthy, not feeling valuable, not feeling lovable, feeling lonely, isolated, hard done by, right? Not good enough in some way, shape or form based on what we received from our external world and what we made up in our own internal worlds as well. And so these very vulnerable parts within us, they're known as your exiles, right? This is the third part that we have within every single human being. These parts, these very vulnerable parts connected to deep shame or humiliation or that sense of, not being good enough in some way, shape or form, these parts are so vulnerable and so left unhealed or acknowledged or worked through or just nurtured and understood and having a sense of compassionate holding of space for, they haven't had what they needed to resolve whatever made them feel really hurt and vulnerable and wounded, right? And so instead, these strategies that we kind of break up, where these multiple personalities all within one, right? And it's not a mental disease I'm talking about. Like literally, if you really do the investigative work in your own inner world, or even just listen to yourself talk about different wants and desires and needs and feel like they're all like different people having a part in this discussion, right? We all have these very, very vulnerable parts that are wounded, and we all have protective parts that are here to protect those vulnerable parts. It's as though those protective parts said, hey, we ain't ever going to experience that thing again, right? Whatever that vulnerable, hurtful, wounding thing was, we're never going to experience that again. So the manager will make sure of that, right? Create some sort of strategy. I'm going to be this kind of person, so I never have to experience what it was to be that kind of vulnerable person, right? I'm going to mitigate against every way I've been criticized or judged or whatever. I'm going to create a whole persona and drive over here that will protect that very vulnerable, exiled part within me, so we never have to experience that again because it was so painful. Right? And then that firefighter part, they're doing the same thing. They're just using a different strategy. We're never going to allow that awareness to come up to the forefront, all those wounded parts, all that shame or terror or guilt or whatever it was that we're holding on to in that very vulnerable part. We ain't ever going to experience that. We're going to avoid it, right? We're going to go distract ourselves with this fun thing over here, or this experience, or this changer of state over here, whatever it is, right? And they're going to whoosh in. Oftentimes, whenever something stirs up that wounded or that exiled part, the firefighter will rush straight in, right? Put out the fire, right? Like in whatever strategy it has learnt over time will do the job, right? Now, the problem is, we've got this whole system going on within us that's actually driving us more than our conscious mind is. If our conscious mind, the part of our mind that says, I want to do this, I'm inspired by this, let me try and create this, right? That's 5% of our mind's capacity. The other 95% is residing in the subconscious mind, where all of these unchecked parts are really governing the game, all right? And so if we've got these parts and we haven't built awareness of them, they're literally driving your life. That is why we start and stop things. We feel confused. We have emotions come up to the surface that we don't know what to do. We just want to stuff back down, distract ourselves with these firefighting parts, or overly get perfectionistic and controlling and manage ourselves in this particular way. And these parts, are all fighting to protect these unhealed, very wounded, vulnerable, exiled parts within us. Now, just understanding that is the key. That's the entry into really resolving what's going on in your internal world for the purpose of your most authentic, highest self building its level of awareness and conscious awareness to actually direct your life as you actually want it, sustainably, with ease and flow, right? If you're not experiencing that, like most of us, right, it's because you're not paying attention to the 95% of your mind that is going on in the subconscious with all of these parts that are very well intentioned. Let's not mistake that. That is a huge key to this, because we often judge ourselves, blame ourselves, critique ourselves because we don't seem to be able to follow through. We don't seem to be able to move our lives in the direction that would inspire us. And then we just hit ourselves with more criticism, more attack, all the things that perpetuate this cycle of the need for protection of these vulnerable parts that are getting re-wounded, and now by ourselves. Right? And so what we need to do is have that awareness of what's going on in our system. Also understand every single human being has these parts going on, right? And wherever they are on the personal development journey, they might have really done the work to heal and nurture these parts, but most people haven't, right? And so the key is to get that awareness of the system, to recognize that it is across the board in every human being. There's nothing wrong with you. We're all dealing with our own challenges and our own vulnerable parts and our own protective strategies, right? And so you can know that there's nothing wrong with you. This is universal, and I'm aware of this system. Now let me understand it. And each of these different parts, they really just need something different, right? And so oftentimes we have to work at the beginning with these protective parts, because those vulnerable parts are so stuffed down that we have kind of denied our own reality of them. And so they can be so far stuffed down, right, that we actually can't access them straight away. And it can be a bit too aggravating and vulnerable for the system. So the key to working with these parts is to access and communicate with these protective parts. And maybe you have more of an access to that more controlling, rigid, Nazi, perfectionistic kind of part within you. Or maybe you are dealing with a lot of distractive behaviors, sabotaging behaviors, addictive behaviors that are just getting in the way. Whatever you have most access to is where I would start with you, right? Where we'd have a conversation, where we'd give those parts a voice. We'd be able to, nurture those parts into the awareness of, what are they up to? What are they trying to do? Where's their positive intention? And to acknowledge those parts for the hard work that they've been burdened with, because they're very burdened, those parts, right? They're carrying along this heavy, heavy burden, and they're very outdated, right? These are from childhood onwards. They're not adult, high integrated parts of you that have the full spectrum of wisdom and awareness, right? These are parts that have been forced into survival strategies to protect you, and they've just done the best they could with the tools that they have, and they've stayed stuck in these recycled patterns that are now destructive in your life and costing you your potential, right, and your quality experience of life. But what we need to do is acknowledge them for the heavy burden of responsibility they have had for us to protect us with great intentions, right? But then we have to self-lead. What they're really after is a leader, and they haven't had one, right? Because you've been asleep to their presence, and they've taken on all the responsibility to protect these unhealed, wounded, vulnerable parts within you that you've been ignoring and denying. And what we need to do is help them to build trust, again, with us as the leader. But what does a good leader do? It listens. It listens to all the people on the team, right? All those internal parts in your inner family, right? It gives them a voice. It acknowledges them. right? And then it starts to see what are these needs that are needing to be met. And it unburdens those parts through self-leadership of your higher centered self that's building its level of awareness and consciousness by doing this work and having these inner conversations, right? And these are processes that I guide people with. So if you ever want to reach out and allow me to support you in this way, I'm totally open to it. But what happens is once we give those parts a voice, we actually start to build an opening to the awareness of those really vulnerable parts within you, those exiled parts within you, deep, deep down, that are holding on to shame and terror and all sorts of loneliness and feelings of inadequacy and all of those things that have just been left to their own devices, kind of locked up in a dungeon by themselves, right? That haven't been heard, that just really want their story heard. They just really want to be acknowledged and validated for their experience. All those needs that were unmet throughout the timeline of your history. And what happens then is that part within you, right? That part within you that is a victim, really, that vulnerable part. We help that part to become the creator of its own life through self-leadership, right? Through this higher self within us that's more aware of what's going on and gets to lead those parts into trust within this system. We get to see that part, that vulnerable part, gets to be healed and gets to then become the creator of its own life. And oftentimes your purpose is very connected. What matters most to you is very connected with those vulnerable, wounded parts, that when we heal them, that pain becomes purpose, right? You might have heard that saying. It's so absolutely true, because whatever was a void in our history becomes of really immense value. It generates an immense amount of compassion for others who are on that journey, who may have experienced things that you have experienced, and you get this sense of energy from inspiration of like how much that matters to support people in that way that you may have been wounded. But you can't support people in their wounds when you remain your wounded self and in that victim position. You have to start that journey of creating your own life. And from that place, you're going to access just so much aliveness, so much purpose, so much meaningful direction, right? But if we deny it and squash it down and let these protectors kind of tug of war it out for the rest of our lives, we just seemingly swerve around in the one spot, never really getting anywhere, but lessening in our own self-leadership abilities, our trust within ourselves, and we check out on life and we end up just living this very surface level existence, right? It takes courage and commitment and focused conscious awareness around discovering what's going on in your inner world and self-leading yourself towards what you really want, utilizing the gifts that these parts actually offer once we unburden them, right? And basically those other parts, they're here. That firefighting part, that's here to make sure that you enjoy life and you celebrate the wins, right? You get to experience life fully, right? That is the gift it wants to give, but we're leaving it unquestioned. And so it's just creating these addictive strategies and momentary highs of instant gratification that end up being oftentimes destructive in our lives because we've left this other part unchecked, right? This part that's just gone in overboard drive where nothing's ever good enough. It's always got to be perfect. It's always got to be doing something to move the needle forward and can't celebrate. But this part, when we unburden it and check in with it and honor it for its dedication to protecting us, right? That's now a bit outdated, and we're now going to take those reins with its full awareness and all of its wisdom and expertise in the areas, right? But what it wants to do is really just guide us, right? Really just put in the work to manifest and create the life that we really want to experience, right? It's got so much of a gift to add to our lives if we unburden it from outdated responsibilities by becoming aware, healing those wounded, exiled parts, giving them a voice, and becoming the leader of our own system, and then making sure that we're celebrating our whole life along the way, right? These beautiful parts within us are here to serve us, but when we don't bring conscious awareness to what they're doing and how it's destructive, and choose to take responsibility for our own system and our own self-governance and leadership, then they're really destructive forces, even though they mean the best for us, right? And that's why they are the obstacles that paradoxically want the best for us, right? And what we want to do is transform those obstacles into stepping stones towards what we really want in a really self-led way that is conscious and fulfilling and aligned, and allowing you to exit all that confusion, all that sabotage, all those inner conflicts, but you are your own leader, right? And that's always what we want to get you back to. All right, so that is my message for you guys today. I hope that it inspires you. I hope it gets you thinking about your own inner parts and those tug of wars. And if you ever want any support with a challenge that you're getting stuck on in your life, please do reach out to me. Just shoot me a message on Messenger if you're on here, or you can shoot me an email to vanessa@vanessajanepatrick.com. I'd love to connect with you and see how I can best support you to break through whatever challenges or obstacles are currently in your way, so that you can get about accessing your limitless potential. All right. Let me check in with you guys. All right, awesome. I've got Dave and Arissa. Hello to you, or good evening. I know it's late in your world. And Bill's here in Sanford. Yay. And Bill, congratulations on 35 days. It's been so long, I forgot how many days you're doing. You're so talented. I appreciate you so, so much, Bill, and thank you for the celebration. Yeah, I'm loving serving you guys with these messages. So for those of you who don't know, I set myself a 40-day challenge, choosing love over fear, and in every given conscious moment. And part of that was choosing to show up and share these messages in the hope that they serve you at some stage in some way. And that to me is really just part of why I'm here, right? To contribute in some meaningful way to me, and that's me choosing love over fear. So day 35 out of 40 right now, so I appreciate the celebration, Bill, and I'm loving doing these, so hopefully they are adding value to you. And Tavasi and Dean and Kalaf and Abdul, great to see each and every one of you guys. And Sanford, thank you for this. Thank you for the awareness you have helped me attain in my life. Sanford, you're so welcome, my friend, and thank you so much for showing up. And really need to reconnect. I might have to get the Limitless Potential Golden Circle going back up again, checking in with you guys and seeing what you've been up to. Can't wait to check in again. So much love to each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this message just kind of landed for you, that everything is available to you. Everything that you would be inspired by, it's available to you. But you first need to build some awareness around the obstacles and unburdening those parts within you to self-lead, right? So that you can actually get going in the direction that would most inspire and fulfill you. All right, it's all available to you. You just have to build that awareness, do the inner work, and I'm here to guide you in any way that I can. All right, so much love coming to each and every one of you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 36. Mwah.